Welcome to the final Backyard Farmer of our 70th season. We're awfully sad to have to go away for a few months, but we do have a great show planned for you tonight. And if you do have a question you'd like to get answered before we go away, give us a call at 1-800-676-5446. To get the show started, as always, let's look at samples. Wayne, those are dead.
Fortunately.
Good. What do we have?
I brought some Eastern yellow jackets with me tonight. They were brought into the office by a contractor in town about 2 weeks ago, and they were up in a soffit where every time they started banging on the side of it when they were replacing the fascia, they'd come out and start trying to sting them. And they were trying to use the foaming wasp sprays so it would expand in there. The problem was it was up in the soffit, and there was too many places for it to come out for them to get a good plug and go. So you couldn't do the night, go up, spray the hole, plug it like a cloth, and let them die that way. Oftentimes this time of year, we have a lot of people saying they have bees that are out and stinging them. They like to visit picnics because they do go after a lot of sweet things such as fruit, sweet beverages, those types of things, and they do tend to sting rather unprovoked, especially in defense of the nest if you're too close. So if you do not want to deal with it yourself, when you call your pest control professional, do not say you have bees because they will turn you down very quickly. If you know you have yellow jackets, or if you need help knowing if you need yellow jackets, contact your local extension office and they can get pictures to someone that can help you identify them, so then that pest control professional will assist you.
Excellent. All right. Thanks, Wayne. Okay, Rock, you have something I'm guessing most people do not want in their lawns.
That would be correct. And actually, Kim, you were the one that turned me on to this. This is Bermuda, and I got this off a campus over a steam tunnel. And it normally doesn't really like it here. It turns dormant or it winter kills, and it's just not really perennial. But it's amazing that this can grow where we find it on the steam tunnel because, you know, it's right next to the road. It gets some road salt. It gets a lot of other things. And people want to do this because, you know, it's really high in salt tolerance and it's really wear tolerant. It's very drought tolerant, but unfortunately it's just not conducive to growing in our lawns. And when you see it in your lawn, it's going to be considered a weed. But this is a really fine leaf one, which is a little unique. And the only reason it can tolerate here, and somehow it blew in or got brought in by a bird or whatever, the only reason it grows there is because of the heat from the steam tunnel on campus. And other things. Now, we can't really show it because this is such a fine leaf one, but very typical of the warm season grasses like Bermuda grass and buffalo grass. It's got hairs in and around the collar, which would be the kind of zone down here. But unique in Bermuda grass is these things that my kids call fangs. They're the white little things that look like vampire fangs right at the base of where the leaf meets the sheath. So it's a unique species, not really capable of being propagated here. If you do propagate it here, it's usually the very coarse, ugly kind, and it's only green for like 6 weeks, so it's just not something you want. And in the lawn, but we do have the products that can control it. The mesotrione-based homeowner products that are put out by Ortho or Scott's Miracle-Gro do a really good job on this. It'll turn it white as a sheet, and if you do this 3 to 5 times over a growing season, and maybe have to do it into the next year, it can do a pretty good job on that.
All right, thanks, Rock. That's a monster piece of steel wool there, Dennis.
Yeah. Well, this is actually stainless steel wool.
Uh-huh.
So this is the time to exclude. And remember, if you kill one mouse, you kill one squirrel, that one is gone. But if you exclude, you're keeping everybody out. So you're better off planning your time and your money into exclusion. So this is stainless steel wool, so it's not going to rust or go away. And you can cut it and plug up any kind of holes you like to. You do not use stainless steel if there's any electrical outlet because that conducts electricity. There, you have to watch that. But if there's no electrical lines going through, okay, you can easily use this and you can cut it up and put it around any kind of pipes coming in and out of the house, around soffits and things like that. And then this last week, I had someone call me. They had a squirrel go down their vent pipe for their stool and the bathrooms. And so all you have to do is get some of this, it's called Nexalite, this brand, but it's porcupine wire and it's all stainless steel. And you just put that in that air vent, and the squirrels and the rats can't go down the air vent, but the air can come right up. Or you can just put it over the top of the air vent. okay? And I'm not going to put it on my head to keep the birds away again. Okay, but again, so stainless steel lasts a long, long time. It is a little more expensive, but it'll keep everything out for a long time.
All right, thanks, Dennis. Okay, Jeff, you brought us some great looking stuff.
Well, I brought a couple different things. So with our conditions this year, sometimes we'll forget about some of the plants that do well in Nebraska. So I have a couple things. So I have goldenrod, and I have big blue stem. And so both of these plants have done well with little in the way of supplemental irrigation this year. So they're both doing their thing. They look good, and they've done really well. They're in a verge area, so they've been exposed to a lot of heat. Now, in wetter years, these plants may lodge a little bit. They may lay over because they've put on too much growth. But in a year like this, they're kind of keeping their size and they look really good. The shrub I have here is eastern wahoo, so it's a euonymus. It's our eastern Nebraska native euonymus, and it does well in the eastern part of the state. But it is a plant that requires supplemental irrigation, even though it's a native plant. So it's kind of knowing your zones and a lot what you teach, and that is making sure that you are pairing the right plants together that require the same sort of maintenance and management, and that we're not mixing those so that you're overwatering one or underwatering the other, through the whole season. So this is in a separate location, but again, I've had to, on a regular basis, continue to water it. So.
But that's good because it's a really cool native plant.
Yeah, it's fun.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Okay, Wayne, you get the first round of pictures for this last 70th season show. You have 4 from this first person. This is a blue spruce in South Lincoln. She sent a lot of pictures here. Lost one last year, took a limb off, dead branches. She's showing a section, then she's showing this, and then she found a dinky little insect. She wants to know if that is the cause. She's aware of some other diseases, but she really doesn't want to lose more of her trees.
All right, so if they keep it on this picture, I'm going to point out some things. So you have that little tiny beetle. I can tell you it's a beetle. I can tell you it's in the ambrosia beetle group. And you can see the bluish stain working from the edge of that limb down in. That's a fungus that comes in with that beetle. So there's a mutualism there. The beetle brings the fungus to a new tree. The fungus starts growing. The beetle larvae get a lot of their nutrition from eating the wood infected with that fungus. Now, if you're worried about it spreading to other trees, you got to keep your trees healthy. These beetles tend to, like lots of our native borers that we talk about, go after weakened trees, stressed trees, dying trees. So keep them healthy, and you should hopefully be able to keep them away, at least for now, but it's been a rough go for a lot of our conifers.
All right, excellent. And you have one picture here. This comes to us from Estherville, Iowa. Mature oaks, and these were in the middle of one that fell. So he did say the middle of the tree was rotten. He's wondering, does he need to worry about the rest of his oaks?
If it was rotting, I would say the likelihood of that tree being stressed was much higher. Just like I said on the prior set, we're looking at stressed, dying trees. That's what our borers are going to attack. So as long as those other trees are healthy and they're not overly stressed for long periods of time, you should be okay for now.
All right, thanks, Wayne. Okay, Rock, 2 pictures for your first one here. This is from Plattsmouth. Had some damage to the lawn in a few areas this summer, and then they seeded at the end of the project. This is all that grew. Long runners that go throughout the rest of the grass. What is it, and how do they get rid of it?
Yeah, this is nimblewill, and I can't confirm that it came in the seed. It could be that the seed wasn't certified, so we can't guarantee that we know that it came from the seed. So I don't want to throw the seed company or whatever under the bus at this point in time. It is surprising it's the only thing came up. Nimblewill can spread from seed. It's a perennial, warm season grass, very similar to Bermuda grass and even buffalo grass. But this is definitely nimblewill. When we blow these pictures up, we can see that there's no hair in and around the collar and the sheath of the leaf. And it's got the characteristics and the stoloniferous growth habit of nimblewill. How to get rid of it? There are 2 things they can do. Once again, as we mentioned with Bermuda grass, it's going to take multiple applications, but anything that has mesotrione in it, And there are some Scott's Miracle Grow products that have it. They're the only ones I know that have it, but others have said that you can find some things at your store, and it's primarily for crabgrass, but once again, it can work. There's also a product, and I always struggle with this, but they call it Roundup for Lawns Crabgrass Destroyer. So it's not glyphosate, it's just a trade name for a consumer-based product out of that's available once again from Scott's. The Roundup for Lawns Crabgrass Destroyer has a product on all active ingredient called tropazone. It's great for crabgrass, but it's also great for nimblewill. You won't get it in one application on like you would for crabgrass, but it'll take multiple applications, and it'll turn it white. So it's similar to mesotrione, only it's a different chemistry from a different company, and therefore has a different name. But those are two products. Anything that has mesotrione in it, or exclusively the Roundup for Lawns Crabgrass Destroyer, once again, has tropozones, which is a newer class of chemistry that not only controls will do a pretty good job on nimblewill, but it also does a pretty good job on goosegrass and some other difficult to control annual grassy weeds.
All right, thanks, Rock. One picture here, this is a Ceresco viewer, has this particular weed, keeps spraying. What is this, and how does he control it?
This is, the late season Rambo crabgrass. Very common, but at this point in time, and especially with the drought, we often see weed control go down when we've got even the weed species that are normally controlled are drought stressed. So you're going to laugh, but we say put some water on it to get it healthily growing, and then and I mentioned the previous Crabgrass Destroyer product, anything that's got Clencrack in it will do a pretty good job on it. It is pretty late in the season, and there is some head formation on here already, so there's going to be some seed produced. But I would just say that do everything you can, get the lawn healthy and growing. And you can combat crabgrass. Definitely they're going to need to use a pre-emergent in the spring.
All right, and one more, and this is earlier in the year, we told them it was nutsedge, too late to treat it, so she wants to know now what to do next spring, and this is Elm Creek, Nebraska. When does she need to begin to treat? She does have something that's labeled for yellow nutsedge, and she wants to know if she can use that.
I imagine if it's labeled for yellow nutsedge, it has pretty good activity on it. Without knowing specifically the chemical name, I can't tell you whether it's going to be a multiple application one or a single application one. But nonetheless, thank you for asking what you do next spring. We generally see the best yellow nutsedge control occurring in those areas that infestations are, generally by the end of the first week in June. Most people don't see it growing more aggressively than the grass, but that's when we know these products will be most effective. You can go later in the year prior to the longest day of the year and get pretty good control. After that, you start getting good control of what was there, but you break dormancy in the tubers and you start seeing more nutsedge than you started out with. And you can certainly then continue to spray throughout the summer, but we would really like to use the most efficient means, which was to control the nutsedge in no later than the first week or second week in June with a product labeled for nutsedge, and then you don't break dormancy in all the tubers that are in the ground and then have more than you started out with.
All right, thank you, Rock. Dennis, this is a Johnson Lake viewer. Several holes adjacent to rocks at water's edge, 6 inches deep at least and 3 inches in diameter, about 2 feet apart. Any idea about creature and what to do?
Well, just the size of those holes, I can't see any footprints or paw prints. I'm thinking it could be something like a pack rat, but you're on the edge of the sand hills or not too far from the edge of the sand hills at Johnson Lake. So it could also be Dipotomies or the kangaroo rats. They're noted to be in that sandy area as well. It's definitely not muskrats, and it's definitely not voles. So I would go with a pack rat, even a Norway rat possibly, if there's any Norway rats there, or a kangaroo rat.
And what do they do?
Enjoy them. They're by the lake. Give them a little bathing soup.
Perfect. And dinner every now and then?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Your next one is, let's see, we don't know where she's from, but she has a critter digging up tulip and daffodil bulbs nightly, and they appear to be making a burrow. What is it, and how do you discourage this?
Yeah, this one you really need to do something about.
Yeah.
Since it's been digging up and not being pulled down, if it's being pulled down, it's probably Plains pocket gopher. Being pulled up like that and that size, it could even be raccoons, because they will eat those. But it's probably could be opossums, love to eat those things as well, and they do dig quite a bit. Voles, I can't really get a size, but they look fairly small since they're daffodils. So with the teeth marks that I was barely able to see, I'm going more towards the vole.
Okay, and what to do?
For that, you will use those multi-catch traps, and those are the box traps that you wind up, and you'll get the voles at night.
Okay. Now, the next one, what makes a burrow like this? So this is one
Okay,
picture,
yeah,
and
that's
Wayne's.
Wayne's. That's a cicada-killing wasp. That's not a vertebrate.
Yeah, yeah, and we're still getting some of those pictures.
Yeah, there's still a few of them floating around. They're
Yeah.
You can tell by that coffee ground looking soil.
Right.
If it looks like coffee grounds and it's pushed out with a little groove, that's a wasp, not a animal.
Okay, all right.
and that exit hole probably was about the size of a nickel.
Okay, all right, thanks, guys. Okay, Jeff, your first one for the 70th season is this viewer has 3 raised garden beds that were built a couple years ago. Nothing to grow in them, 24, 8 feet. A description of the liner, which is poly and then rocks, and then the soil is 40% compost and what sounds like garden soil, not planter soil.
Right.
They want to know whether they should make the beds bigger, start over with the soil. What do we think here?
You know, it sounds like they went to a lot of work, and you know, I think they did a lot of right things. You know, looking at this picture, I see really a crust on top. So I think what I would do is go ahead and remove the soil that you have there without removing the base and the drainage system that you've put in, and come in with more of a loamy soil with some compost mixed into it, something that won't be, ideally, probably have as much silt or clay in it that is causing some of this, and I think that may be contributing to the fact that they're having a hard time with germination, or the seeds are germinating and just can't break through the crust, so.
All right, thank you, Jeff. You have one picture on this next one, and this particular one is allium, or I'm sorry, wondering what this plant is. And
it's a clematis, a sweet autumn clematis.
And is it one that is a good thing, or is it one that is invasive?
Well, it can be invasive.
Yeah.
It's fun to have, and it can be very pretty, but it will, over time, if the plants thrive, they will tend to have seedlings come up. So it's something just to kind of keep an eye on. But a lot of our really great plants will generate some seedlings over time. So, but yeah, it's a great plant. What's nice about it is it blooms in the fall. You know, that's why it's called the football clematis. So,
all right.
Anyway,
have not heard that one.
That's how I learned it. So.
Okay, and then we have another identification, but it's also he wants to know how to get rid of this particular allium, and then there's another person who sent us sort of a similar question, which is they've tried everything to get rid of this particular allium, and how do you get rid of it if you don't want it? Mm-hmm. It's spread all over the place.
You know, what Rock was describing with the nutsedge would be probably the same sort of product I would use on the allium, quite honestly, because I think that's the issue. We have another bulb-forming plant that has a lot of energy and is able to handle some herbicide treatments over time. So, you know, something like Roundup will set it back, the 3-way killers will set it back, but some of these other chemistries with the mesotrione will probably be the ticket to get through those. But again, it's multiple applications over a period of time and not letting it flower. And that's the key with some of these weedy plants. Do not let them flower.
All right. Thanks,
yeah, I just want to stress that because they produce like 10,000 seeds per stalk, and once you've got the seeds, then you're going to struggle the entire time.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys. Well, unfortunately, a lot of our landscape plants have taken a beating this year with the drought conditions. Lilacs here on campus and pretty much all over Nebraska have had some serious issues. So here to tell us more about lilac management are Jeff and Kyle.
We're out here on East Campus at our historic lilac collection. So these are some very old lilacs we have on campus. And a lot of us have lilacs at home. You may have had some problems this year. I'm here with Kyle, and first, Kyle, I know the environment's been a problem this year. We had kind of a weird spring and a weird summer. What's going on with our lilacs this year?
Well, there's been quite a few things going on this year, as you've alluded to. You know, when you think about some of the environmental conditions that we have had, that late near frost that we had has really shown up, has caused a lot of injury that didn't necessarily show up right away, but once we got into the heat of the summer, we're now starting to see some fairly severely blighted branches. You know, additionally, the heat that we've had, the heat and the drought. And so if you're like me and you haven't been watering your lilacs near as much as you should, you're going to get some tip dieback. Combine that with the dry winter that we had, drought conditions, a lot of environmental problems leading to just poor looking lilacs.
Right.
You know, but we've also had some diseases show up.
Okay.
So when we think about lilac diseases, powdery mildew is one of the first that comes to our mind. And powdery mildew is that white superficial growth on the top side of the leaf. Normally it's not a very major problem, but it can lead to some early defoliation. The more problematic diseases that we tend to see are bacterial blight caused by a Pseudomonas bacteria and a fungal disease called Pseudocercospora leaf blight.
Okay.
For the bacterial leaf blight, that's a disease that tends to be favored by cooler temperatures. And so we see that a little bit more in the spring.
Sure.
And it kind of will lead to some brown spots on the leaves and maybe some leaf deformation, depending on when that infection occurred.
Okay.
Now, the one that I've been seeing a lot more of right now is our fungal disease, and that is, again, our Pseudocercospora leaf spot. Not a whole lot is known about this disease. We didn't really see it until about 3 to 4 years ago. It just kind of showed up, and it showed up everywhere, it seems.
Okay.
It tends to be a little bit more aggressive on plants that are stressed due to drought, injury, maybe there's some herbicide damage as well. So, you know, I'm really not that great at pruning my lilacs. How could I do some renewal pruning at home to prevent this fungus from taking over?
Well, you know, so that's a great question. This particular collection, we had allowed, it's been here for a long time, for 30 plus years. We allowed it to get larger and larger over time. It was very popular, flowered really nice. We finally got to the point where, just like kind of at home, you felt like, okay, I need to go in and start doing some pruning. I finally need to do something about it. We started doing some caning in here and got pretty aggressive with that. Tried to bring the height down so they're back down to a manageable level. Instead of being 12, 15 feet tall, we wanted to get them more in the 6 to 7, 8 foot range. So that's gone on for a couple of years. You know, and I think too, so we've done that, which you would think in some ways would help, unless of course, you know, one thing we didn't do would maybe sanitation between cutting. And if this is something that you really need to be doing some sanitation, is that a concern?
Probably not. You know, it's always a good idea to be cleaning your clippers or pruning tools between plants, but you know, this is not one that we would expect to survive too much on the pruning equipment.
Okay,
also,
good.
it's primarily going to infect the leaves.
Okay.
And so we're not really too concerned about the fungal disease getting into the plant and causing a vascular wilt or anything like that.
Okay. So as we go into the fall, I recommend, you know, we see some dead here. Certainly you want to prune out any dead branches that you have. You don't want to do a lot of pruning this time of year. It'll affect your flower in the spring, obviously. So we typically do our major pruning in lilacs in the spring. And again, we look at that kind of caning thing. But right now, not a lot of pruning, just taking out the dead. For fungus concerns going into the fall?
You know, one of the biggest things is going to be managing how we water. And so making sure that we're using soaker hoses, not that overhead watering that can splash those fungal spores up onto other healthy leaves. And hopefully, if you follow some of those tips, your lilacs will come back great next year.
These tips should help your lilacs survive this hot weather. Hopefully next spring they will bounce back to life. All right, bang, bang, Wayne, your first one is Omaha. Is this a good guy or a bad guy in the garden for this particular picture?
Ailanthus webworm. So whether or not you like Tree of Heaven, this depends on whether it's a good guy or bad guy.
All right, the next one comes to us from Bellevue. It was on the siding of the garage.
Giant walking stick.
Very cool. Third one on a red bud. She hopes it's a friend.
It's kind of a benign western leaf-footed bug.
Okay, and finally, one a little bigger than a quarter, a spider building a web.
This is one of those ones I wish we had a picture of the other side of the spider. You can't ID from the bottom. You got to look at the patterns on top. So it's an orb weaver. That's all the more I can tell you.
All right, rock, new sod, laid about a month ago. And in this picture, it looks like this. Is there anything to do to rescue it, or should they start over? It's not irrigated.
Yeah, that's going to be a problem. You're not going to bring that back from the dead. Probably was either that on the pallet or the ground was dry when they put it down and it sucked the moisture right out of there. But that's going to have to be resodded or reseeded.
All right, 2 pictures on this next one. Now, they described this as wiry, and we were talking about that off air. We don't think it's wiry, but seems like it's resistant to heat and drought, and Lincoln doesn't get any water.
Yeah, it's an annual barnyard grass, very salt tolerant, and certainly if it would be living from year to year, it would be something you might want in the lawn, but right now it's something that needs to be pulled or sprayed.
All right, Dennis, this is your first one here is, we don't know where, but neighborhood is full of great big oaks, and these branches keep falling. They wonder, is this squirrel damage, and what are they doing, and how do you stop them?
So this is just like a slice, so it's definitely a tree squirrel, not a oak girdler or anything like that. And they need to get these to either get nuts, the young males like to bury nuts and the clumps of acorns, but they also need to start building nests for the winter. So they'll drop twice as many as they pick up and use.
All right, 3 pictures on this next one. People wonder if a creature took this, or was it a 2-legged creature?
It was a 2-legged creature with a chainsaw. And you can see that the chainsaw kind of hit those points, the tip of the chainsaw, that's the tip of the chainsaw hitting those points. And there's nothing that would cut that branch that even that way but a chainsaw.
All right.
So unless you have some kind of beaver that knows how to use a steel chainsaw.
No, okay.
It's a 2-legged creature.
All right. On that note, Jeff, you have 3 pictures on this one. It's Scotch pine and kind of going downhill. He's wondering if this is pine wilt, or if we can tell from just these 3 pictures.
It's kind of hard to tell. I mean, certainly if it's pine wilt, by May you will know for sure. So once we have some warm weather, typically in the spring, that's the time that they will
show that.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we have a Denton viewer who sent this picture of a pine that came down. What was that, probably?
Well, it probably was pine wilt. That blue stain is what we typically see in dead Scotch pine. So.
All right, 2 more, and this is an Omaha viewer that has a big old Shademaster honey locust with a dead branch with fungus on it. Should they remove that branch now, or wait till spring?
I would take it out now.
All right,
Yeah.
Excellent. Nice job, guys. Right now it is time for the 70th year lightning round.
Wow.
Jeff, 70 questions in a minute.
Okay.
This person wants to know, can they prune their junipers that have gotten ratty right now?
Limitedly, they can, yes.
All right. We have a burning bush pruning question, and it is, if it's 15 years old and grown together and they want to prune them enough to separate them, can they do that now?
Sure. If they want to do a little separating, go ahead.
All right. Does UNL team with restaurants to accept compostables?
No.
All right. Omaha, when do you treat pin oak for chlorosis with the trunk capsules, and then do you seal them?
You would do that in May. You kind of want it at warmer temperatures, so, and then just follow the directions of the product you're using.
And do not seal, right?
Well, it would depend on the product. They might have something,
A cap.
proprietary, cap.
Okay. Have you heard of red oak wilt in our part of on campus yet?
I've heard of
David
oak
City.
wilt, and I don't know if we've had it on campus.
All right. Is it Les Hills, in Logan, Iowa? How do you prepare new plum trees for winter?
Well, I would make sure that they're mulched, that they're well watered, that you continue to water them. Kind of, I do the holidays as we go through the season, so that way you don't forget to give them a little drink through the water, through the winter season.
Excellent. We won't count that one, but thank you for answering. Okay, Dennis, are you ready?
I'm always ready.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so we have a viewer who knows that you have to leave those nests alone while there are babies in them, but this is a robin's nest. The fledglings flew, and I want to know if it's okay to take the nests down.
Sure. By now, the second clutch is done, so now you can take down the nest of migratory birds.
All right. This is a St. Paul viewer who has a picture that was too fuzzy, but looked like a giant turtle was shedding its shell. Do they do that?
Yes, turtles shed the scutes.
Okay. This is a country acreage. They want to know, is there any way to deter rabbits from eating their plants other than fencing individual plants?
Not really, unless you know a couple of really nice coyotes that want to help you.
Okay. This is a Lincoln viewer who wants to know whether the exploded population of foxes will die or will they move on this winter?
I wouldn't say it exploded. I don't even think it's near proper carrying capacity, but they'll go up and down with the rabbits. The rabbits were high, so they went high, and now the rabbits go down, they'll go down.
Okay, McClelland, Iowa, what will get rid of pocket gophers?
There's a bait that you can put in there, in the tunnels.
All right, nice job. Rock, you ready? All right, this is an Omaha viewer who wants to know whether weed and feed should be put down now, or do we wait, or is it too late?
They can put down a fertilizer application now. We're not big fans of weed and feed because if you have 5 weeds in a lawn, you're putting a bunch of herbicide out there you don't really need to use.
All right. We have a question about fall pre-emerge for winter annuals because we say do that, and they want to know what do we mean by fall? Is that now or later?
Late August, depending upon the species, into mid-September. So they should have an app down by now or in the next week.
All right. This is a Grand Island viewer who wants to DIY their lawn care. They wonder what the steps are, how many, and start at the beginning. And
yeah, that's a conversation that we're going to have one-on-one because if they want a really great, immaculate lawn, it's 6 steps. If they're happy with my lawn, it's 3.
Okay. We have a Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin viewer who watches and wants to know what is the product we use in the fall for violet control.
I'm going to use anything that's either a mesotrione-based product or a triclopyr-based product for wild violets.
All right. Council Bluffs, mowing height for the last mowing of the season.
The same height you've been mowing it all year long.
All right. Excellent. Nice job. Ready, Wayne?
Last but not the least.
Here
right?
we go. This is a viewer who used a systemic in May around her Rose of Sharon for the Japanese beetles, and now she's worried that it will hurt the bees that are on those flowers.
Depends what it was, but by this time, most of that should have dissipated.
All right. Is there a soil treatment to prevent borers and probably squash vine borers from returning if they cannot rotate their crops?
Squash vine borers are very mobile, and no amount of rotation from one spot in the garden to another is going to keep them away.
Okay. We have a Lodgepole, Nebraska viewer who says thousands of ant mounds are everywhere. And they've tried everything with ant baits. How do you
If they're outside, just leave them alone, let them do their thing.
All right. Bees at the feeder, bees versus hummingbirds. How do you keep the hummers and not hurt the bees?
No, you don't.
Okay. This is a Fremont viewer who found monarch caterpillars on their leaves on September 11th. They want to know if they will survive and turn into butterflies, or is it too late?
If they were fully grown, there's a chance. If they were quite small, no.
All right. Will monarchs still lay eggs on aphid-damaged milkweeds?
Usually it's on some of the newer, and they won't be on the same poor quality plants.
All right. Nice job, all. I don't know who won, but it looked like we all did for the last show of the season.
We're all winners.
We're all winners.
Yes.
Okay, Jeff, what are the plants of the week?
Well, these are 2 really cool plants, and they're really cool for a couple reasons. So, one, we have this Gibraltar bush clover, and it goes from dying back in the winter to 7 feet, 8 feet tall by the time it's done growing. And again, it's great. Here we are in September, and it's blooming and doing its thing. And then the other one we have here is 7 Suns tree, which is another fun tree. It can, when they're younger, maybe the first 5 or 6 years, it seems to be kind of a well-managed plant. Then after that, it becomes quite large. So kind of like a honeysuckle would sometimes. Again, it flowers in the fall, and it has kind of a faint gardenia smell to it, which I like about it. But the thing I like about it most is it's the species names for these. So Lespedeza, I just love that name. And then the Seven Sons tree is Heptacodium. So I just love that too. They're just kind of fun, you know, to be able to say that. So when you see your friends, mention Lespedeza and Heptacodium. So.
Using those scientific names are part of them.
Yeah.
And those are both in the Backyard Farmer Garden for people, and they're blooming right now.
Yeah.
So come visit our garden, as always. All right, questions for you, Wayne. First one here comes to us from Scotts Bluff. And he says he knows what it is, but let's tell people what it is and what to do about it.
So this is a very light phase western bean cutworm. So you got to look really close, and you can see the two lines on the back right behind the head.
And
how they get into all kinds of corn. They also get into dry beans as well and feed. So they can be a pest.
all right, so this is a Lincoln viewer who sent this one. What are these, and does he have to be concerned? This is around new patio work, and all of a sudden they came boiling out of the hole.
There are ants that swarm this time of year. It's just the reproductives coming out. They'll do this for a couple days, and then you won't see the winged ones anymore. Since they're outside, they're nothing to worry about.
All right, your next one here is an Omaha viewer who says this has happened to her patio eggplants. Any idea?
That is corn earworm. So corn earworm also gets in tomatoes, does the same thing, also gets into green peppers, and will do the same thing, those holes boring in like that.
Okay, then we have an Ida Grove viewer, and she says as if the grasshoppers weren't eating enough of my tomatoes, what fresh, hot place is this critter from, and what can I do about them?
Well, we see these every year. These are bumbleflower beetles. They get into damaged fruits. So if you had some swell cracking on this or something else with a little more aggressive feeding habits got started on it, they'll continue enlarging that area and keep feeding.
All right, and one more, and this is a Millard viewer, has dozens, it's a wasp, you can see it over there on the left, I think, on the garlic chives, and thought they were one of the banded parasitoids, but they're wondering if it's bald face. They're shy.
It's neither of those. Okay. This is actually, I use this as my Zoom background when I'm on Zooms, is this particular wasp. It's a potter wasp. They collect caterpillars and store them in a little round mud ball, and it's got a little flute on top, so it looks like an old-fashioned clay pot. So that's why you call them potter wasps.
Excellent. All right, thank you so much. Rock, 2 pictures on this first one. This is an Elkhorn viewer, and he says the turf is about 5 years old. It's fescue. A couple areas that seem unusual with these small, roundish dead patches, and he's wondering if we can identify it.
This is what we've, Wayne and I talked about it off camera, because this is often what happens, especially when we're under stressful conditions like the summer we've had for turf, and for any plant for that matter. But a bird will come in and feed on an insect that's in the profile, and we can't really identify the insect because it's in the belly of the bird. But it's pecking, and it eats it, and then when it pecks, it pulls up some plant material. And there's even a little bit of plug of dirt down when we can blow these up a little bit that shows, that's probably what it is. And we see this more routinely, but it's always exaggerated under the conditions we've had. And I don't know if Wayne wants to add anything to that or not.
Well put, Rock.
Thank you.
Well put. Don't expect me to say that often.
I know you don't, so I'm going to take that one.
Okay, 3 pictures for this next one, Rock. This is Juniata, and she's wondering what causes the brown spears in the grass. They have fertilized, they've treated for grubs, and they have had this for the last 2 or 3 years. Nothing seems to make any difference.
So this one, I'm perplexed on this one, because I looked at all the pictures really close, and thank you for sending how many you did. And it's not until I get to the last one where I see some discolored crabgrass seed heads, and you have to kind of look kind of close to see them. So I'm not, it looks like, it almost looks like the crabgrass has been treated and that's what's going out. But I would need a more definitive picture and a little closer picture before I could say, yeah, that's obviously what it is. And I apologize because they sent 3 pictures and they were trying to get it. But we're going to need a closer up look at the picture. That's the spear, and that's an interesting way to describe it. But I'm drawing a 0 until I'm not comfortable saying it's crabgrass that's been treated with one of the whitening herbicides, and they may not have done that. So that would obviously make that wrong. So I apologize for not being able to figure this one out.
All right, thanks, Rock. Dennis, your first one is This large turtle was swimming in a lake in southwest Nebraska. And
Okay.
what do we think about that one? What is that? I
That's
wonder
a,
if it's
yeah, it's a
painted-
northern painted turtle. It's a common species in the state, and it's found statewide. It's a male.
So
It's full-grown reproductive male.
And it's a good guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
All turtles are good.
Invasive ones?
No, we don't have any invasive turtles that much.
Okay, good. And then we have 3 pictures from this next person. This is a Lincoln viewer. Found June 6th, the painted turtle laid eggs in the yard next to the chicken coop. No water source. Looked up gestation. Here came the babesters, and they dug them up. They took them in. They hatched. Here they came. He wonders how to overwinter these little guys.
Well, if you overwinter them, you have to keep them real cold, and that's what you should do, because you probably will not be able to get them enough ultraviolet light that they'll be able to support themselves to make their shell. The best thing to do is the closest water, even if it's a half-mile away, let them go.
Okay. All right.
So that female lay the eggs. It's about 72 to 82, sometimes 90 days later, they hatch, and then they have to make their way to the water, and it's sometimes a half mile.
Wow. Okay. All right. 2 more on this one, and this comes to us from Schuyler Lake, a lake near Schuyler.
Yeah.
What kind of snake is this? Is this a friend or a foe?
Well, we got 2 snakes there. Fortunately, it's a fox snake. It's a western fox snake. And again, I've never met a snake I didn't like. I can't say the same for people. So they're all friendly and they're all good. But that's a western fox snake. It's extremely benign and hurting anything except for rodents.
All right. Excellent. Thank you, Dennis. Jeff, your first one comes to us from Omaha, and 7-year-old pawpaw tree took water into the trunk, and it snapped and died last February. And then, of course, the roots started to shoot. He has about 10 of them. Wondering, can he transplant, or is that actually root suckering, and when should he transplant?
Yeah, these are suckering off of the root system that was there, so no, you can't transplant. Pawpaws want to create a colony, like a lot of plants do, and it's lost its leader, and so now it's searching for a new leader, so to speak. So one of these will eventually kind of take over, and the others will be subservient to the others and stay a little lower than it. But so that, or take it all out and start over.
Okay. One picture on this next one. This is a North Platte viewer. 3-year-old rose bushes that have never bloomed. Reddish tints on the big ends. She's wondering if she should just rip these out.
She should. This is a rootstock. I think it's reverted back to it. And she may be able to go back and find the crown of the original plant and realize it's all coming up from that. So. All
right, start over. One picture on this next one. This is lilac, carney. Branches look dead. Should they prune them now or wait until after they flower next year?
Yeah, if there's anything dead, I would go ahead and prune all of that out. So.
All right, one picture here. This is Lincoln. When and how should a butterfly bush be pruned in the fall?
No. Well, you can if you want, but you would cut it back in the spring. So.
All right, and then an Omaha viewer has a Crimson King maple. This year it shot up a 6 to 8 foot tall single branch leader. Is this a cause for concern, and will it do some side branching next year?
I don't know if it's a cause for concern. I would go ahead and take that back to where it originally came off of the tree. I mean, this is a rounded topped tree, so it's just an abnormal growth, so go ahead and take it off.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Well, our garden never ceases to amaze us with the incredible beautiful of those ornamentals and the productivity of our herbs and our vegetables. So let's take a few minutes to take one last 70th season look at the garden for this season. Throughout all the heat, drought, insects, and diseases, our garden really puts on a show. So thanks to Terry and all those wonderful master gardeners for the hard work. Just a reminder, this is our last show for our 70th season in 2022, but we'll still be posting videos on the YouTube channel throughout the fall and winter, and there's never been a better time to keep watching Backyard Farmer content. Check it out after the show. Make sure you do hit that subscribe button. All right, gentlemen, the last round of the last show of the 70th season. Wayne, Grant, Nebraska, found this insect on his maters one morning. What is it?
It's a black saddlebags dragonfly. Probably just spent the night there.
Huh, saddlebags, that's cool. All right, and then we have a Pleasantdale viewer. Couldn't figure out what kind of grasshopper this is. She says it was 7 inches long, and when tried to put something beside it for scale, it treated her with bodily harm.
Yeah, this is not something we usually see here. I was hoping this was from further east.
Uh-oh.
That's a horse lubber grasshopper. They are native to North America, but this is the first I've heard of one from Nebraska.
Oh dear, all right. So your next one comes to us from Gretna. He thinks it's the caterpillar of the Florida fern moth. Is that what it is, and is it a pest or not?
Yes, it is a Florida fern moth caterpillar. Here's the best part. Stick your plant outside in the winter and it will no longer have Florida fern moth.
All right.
May not have a fern anymore either, but they are a problem in greenhouses and nursery stocks, so they do move around with that.
All right. And then Central City, she sent us a picture of a spider that she'd like to have identified.
Despite what I'm going to call it, yes, it is still yellow. It's a white-marked crab spider.
A white-marked crab spider that's yellow.
Yeah, it's yellow.
Nice.
They do have quite a bit of color variation.
Nice job on the name.
Now, was that an entomologist colorblind when he said name or what?
Yeah.
You know, entomologists are like pathologists. We're not real creative with the names.
All right, Rock, 2 pictures on this first one, and this is one that we thought we had identified earlier. We asked her for a picture in flower. Still the same plant, so what is this?
Yeah, it's definitely a member of the goosefoot family, which is the same family lamb's quarters in. I'm not convinced this is lamb's quarters, but it's definitely a chenopodium. And whether they want to propagate it or not, it's an annual. It gets real tall. It produces a lot of seed. I consider it a weed, or I would consider it a weed, and would probably pull and eradicate it.
All right. This is from western Otoe County. They think it's clammy ground cherry, and they haven't really asked for control, but is it, and what would you do about it?
It's clammy ground cherry, and when the fruit is ripe, and I'm going to use ripe, it's edible. Other than that, it's highly toxic and will make you really, really sick. So I'm going to say that, any animals, children, whatever, I would prefer that this go away.
All right. One picture on this, and she did let it flower as we asked. It's 6 feet tall. So what is it?
This is wild lettuce or bitter lettuce, also known as opium lettuce, fairly common. They call it opium lettuce because some people have been known to use it as an analgesic or a sedative. I would not suggest you do that because you don't know what else is going on there. And it's an annual, so it could be pulled relatively easily.
All right, and one more, and this is La Vista. This volunteer showed up in a pot on their deck. What is that?
This is an annual. It's mare's tail or horseweed, same common name. I would have not let them go to this kind of flowering capacity because they're going to have them everywhere next year.
All right, thanks, Rock. Dennis, this viewer snapped the first picture on the back patio bricks under the awning in Midtown Omaha. Mice, bats, or wabbits?
Bats.
All right. Your second one is Lincoln. What is this very tiny scat on the patio underneath the deck, and why does it keep showing up in the middle of the slab? Mouse, vole, and why do they keep going in the same place? And
Yeah.
he did try ammonia to get rid of it.
I'm thinking something that's above, and it almost could be insect, the way it's shaped, more than this, and how small it is. Mm-hmm. So I would have to really see it, or tease it apart, because it looks like it's fallen down, and it looks more insect or arthropod than it does vertebrate.
All right. So then the next one here is, he wonders if this is a common ground squirrel.
Well, it's a 13-line ground squirrel.
Okay.
So if you think the 13-line ground squirrel is called the common ground squirrel, then yes, it is.
All right, and this was Henderson, Nebraska.
Yeah.
All right, and then finally, we have a viewer had a whole bunch of hostas in his yard, and he actually caught the bunny in action, eating essentially just this one. Is that common, or are they just they're gonna eat anything they can
Well,
find?
I'm sure there's a little bit of difference in taste, and it could be that one place they feel more safe. But once they finish that, if they want some more, they may move on. So yeah, eat more of them.
All right. Thank you very much. Jeff, your last round. So your first two pictures here come to us from North Platte. It's a white spire birch planted in April. Noticing this on the foliage, north side of the house in full sun. What are we going to say?
I don't think I'd worry about it. It's environmental. I think I'd make the mulch bed a little bit bigger and make sure you're giving it enough water. White spire birch in North Platte, that's congratulations. Keep trying, keep working. Don't forget about it.
Okay, one here, and this is a split branch on a red bud, and wondering whether they can bind it together and do something or give it up.
Yeah, I feel bad. Yeah, I think they need to start over. They'd be happier if they did.
All right, and two quickly on this next one. Sculpted blue spruce shrubs appear to be dying. They wonder if it's overspray or is this pruning?
You know, I don't know. It could be the overspray since it's that one there, but it might be another one where they may be kind of towards the end, and I would start over with some more blue spruce.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Well, and unfortunately, that is all the time we have for Backyard Farmer for this season. I do want to take a few minutes to say thanks to all of our panelists for their commitment to the show, answering all of those questions. We're also so lucky to have a great partner in Nebraska Public Media, all the terrific work they do behind the scenes. And finally, to the audience and those master gardeners, we could not do this without you. You've been loyal for 70 years. So we're hoping for another 70. And with that, good night, good gardening. We'll see you all next year right here on Backyard Farmer.